Check this out. I'm starting to get super excited now. Here she is. G'day. It's raining, it's windy, and it's absolutely terrible outside today, so there's not going to be any fishing going down today. But that's all right, because I'm heading into Big 5 Marine to go and have a look at my new boat and give you guys a bit of a rundown on the progress so far. So I've just stopped off to grab a cheeky coffee, and I'm on my way into the shop now, and when I get in there, I'll give you all a bit of a rundown on where we're up to on the boat and how far we've come so far. Here we go. I'm excited. Want a bit of sunlight on it, as it is? Check this out. I'm starting to get super excited now. Here she is. The windscreen is on. The bar work's done. The decals, have a look at these decals. This is, I don't know if you can see it or not, this is like 3D bubble. Absolutely pops out on the side of the boat. It's the same as these ones here. These are the 3D as well. Really pops out. So this is her. She's actually starting to look like a boat now. Yeah, I'm getting pretty excited, to be quite honest with you. So we talked about last time, we got the bowsprit, the lights. So what I'll do is I'll take you inside. I'll have a quick talk about the pod while I'm out here. So I've chosen to go with the full size pod. What I'll do is I'll cut in a bit of footage now of the half pod. Originally, when Alan first started making these boats, they came with the half pod, which, as you can see, is not an actual hull extension. Like this is an actual hull extension. These were originally bought them out that way, and they were fine with the 130 and the 150 horsepower engine on it, and then they decided they wanted to start putting 200s on, so they stepped it up a notch and they went to the full size pod to give it extra flotation. I chose to go with the full pod just for most of the fishing we do is all in the back of the boat, so this just adds extra flotation. Extra waterline obviously makes for a better ride. This thing will jump onto a plane. It's almost on a plane sitting still. I've got some photos, I might be able to post some up, some photos of it sitting on the water over Rottnest and standing still. It's literally, the chines are almost out of the water already without applying any power. So while I haven't got that 200 horsepower, I've only got the 150, it's going to be more than ample to power this thing along. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I went with the full-size pod, and Alan was just telling me before that they're not even going to be doing the half pods anymore. Response to the difference in the handling of the boat and just the extra flotation and weight capabilities of the full pod, they're just not going to do the half one anymore. So all the new ones are going to be coming out with a full pod. This pod itself weighs 90 kilos on its own, which this is a core sample from one of the other pods, not from my boat, but you can see the thickness there. And now it's raining, that's all right. So there's no plywood whatsoever in that. That's just layers of glass and resin, and that's the kind of thickness we're talking about here. So that's, you know, you can just see how solid that is and how much weight is in this pod here. While I got you here as well, the transom, that there is the cutout from this hole here that they put through. This is where the cables for the outboard are going to go, and there's the cutout for it. Once again, no sign of any wood at all, just resin and glass. So it adds a lot more weight to the boat and just makes it a lot more rigid, a lot more solid all over. So what I'll do is I'll climb up and I'll show you where we're up to now. Typical, it starts raining and gets wet. We only just moved this out of the workshop so we can get a bit of light so I can film, and it's yeah, not too pleasant. Anyway, so the boys have been busy. It's been at the windscreen shop for a while. They're very, very busy over at the windscreen shop at the moment and lacking in staff, but it's back. The windscreen's installed, so this looks pretty cool. My biggest thing with the windscreen was the height. Some of the original ones, the original Barons built, the windscreen was another 100mm higher. For me, that was right in my vision sight. I like to see over the top of the windscreen when I'm driving. I'm more likely going to go with another little bar or something down here to stand on so I can actually see up and over and see over the bow when I'm punching around reefs and so forth. But when I'm driving, standing like this, I can see over the windscreen just fine. But yeah, when I'm tucking in close to all these little reefs and stuff, I like to be right up and see right over the front. So I'm probably going to get a little step or something installed down here, but that's a later date once we get the seats in and see how it sits. In the meantime, the boys have installed the throttle. It's not quite wired up yet. We've got the switch panel in, the switch panel for my electric winch, which will be going in soon. We've got the glove box. Oh, that's locked. So we got the glove box, handy to put your phones in, your wallet, bits and pieces, car keys when you're out at sea, so you know where they are. You're not going to lose them over the side. I don't know if anyone's ever lost their car keys out of their pocket while they're at the boat ramp, but it's not, I've seen it happen, and it's not cool. So we've got our cup holders up here. Just as an idea, these are, I think I showed these once before, these digital cup holders we've got here. So the top, this here is the cutout for the cup holders. So have a look at the thickness in this. This is the top of the cabin, and look at the thickness of it. So the original Barons were always a good hull, but when Alan's slightly modified these and redesigned them, he's just added a lot more thickness and a lot more solidness to these hulls. Like I say, that's the cabin roof. Just totally over-engineered. All up, Alan was telling me, the extra weight in one of these hulls compared to the original Barons, there's 400 kilos extra weight in this compared to the original Baron hull. A lot of people would say, oh, it's a lot of weight to tow around. It probably is a lot heavier to tow around, but on the water there's just no substitute for weight, especially in a fiberglass boat. The extra weight just helps you punch through those waves and just gives you a much smoother ride and just a much more solid feel to the boat. So 400 kilos extra on top of the old original Barons, which were a pretty sweet riding hull in the first place anyway. So we've got our radios. We've got the 27 meg and the VHF. We've got our Fusion sound system here. We've got our Mercury digital gauges here. So I'll talk about the Mercury engine later on. We're actually going to do a sea trial pretty soon. The rep from Mercury is going to come out and we're going to do a propeller trial to make sure we're propped up right on this one. So when we do that, I'll have a chat to the Mercury rep and we'll talk about the motor and why I chose Mercury at that stage then. So we've got our steering, we've got the hydraulic steering on here. It's installed, nearly ready to go. So these cutouts come from there, and again, just have a look at the thickness of the material there. No wood, just solid glass. Just the weight and extra strength that's going to provide is where the ride of these things come from. Oh, the sun's out, that's nice. So I've got my big Simrad up here. Again, I spoke about this once before. I could have gone crazy on the Simrad, but in the end of the day, it came to budget to me. I'm already spending enough and I just couldn't justify spending any more. Most of what we do is shallow water. So we're going to be running, hang on, I'm going to take the cover off because it just looks better. Okay, so there we go. So there's my my sounder. Again, it just came down to budget for me. You can go crazy on sounders. As it stands now, I'm going to be more than happy with this for most of the shallow stuff we do, and I'm sure it's going to be good up to about 90, 100 meters anyway, so we're not going to have any issues. I'm going to be running a through-hole transducer, and also the 3-in-1 is going to be at the back as well, so I'll still be able to run the side scan and the down scan as well. So this, I feel like, might be a game changer for us. It's going to be pretty cool. So there's all the dash. Now, I'll take you into the cabin here. We haven't quite got around to getting it wired up yet, but you can see he's not far away from getting into it. So inside here we're going to be getting some USB ports and some charging ports put in here so we can charge up drones, GoPros, whatever else in here. Possibly run a laptop in here if we need to edit, if we're staying overnight or something like that perhaps. But yeah, this should all be nice and neat by the time Alan's finished with it. I've seen his wiring jobs before and he does a great job of the whole lot. So yeah, I'm starting to get excited. I'm sitting down here, this carpet's wet and I've just got a wet ass. So there's a few people have asked me why I actually chose the Barron boats over anything else. Originally, as a lot of you are probably aware, I was looking at just repowering my boat that I've got now, putting a new motor on it. I spoke to Alan about cutting a hole in the floor, putting a bigger fuel tank in there, and just rehashing a few things. It turned out it was just going to cost me quite some amount of money. There's nothing wrong with the boat I've got now, but it just wasn't worth throwing that sort of money at that boat. So the more I was hanging around speaking to Ellen, the more I was looking at these boats, and I was just loving the finish of them all. Just the attention to detail, the finish, everything is just done to the nth degree. And then when I went for a ride on it, the solidness of it, and just the sheer weight, it's more like a block splitter than an axe. It just cleaves its way through the swells, and the ride was just mind-blowing for me. I was literally, I've been on a lot of boats, but when I went on this thing, it really shocked me to how good it was, and it pretty much sold me on the idea of a new one then. To be honest, I really didn't have the money to buy a new boat, but after more chats with Alan and a lot of sucking up to my beautiful wife, I'm going to give a shout out to my wife, because she is 100% behind me on this. And if anything, I probably would have said no, because I'm a tight ass and always have been. It's my wife who pushed me ahead and said, no, get it, you got to live, you use it, it's going to be something that you keep for a long time. And as you guys can see by the build of this thing, there's no wood involved, it will last, it's all solid glass. And the other beauty of this as well is, the more I spoke to Alan, the more I realised that every one of these boats for him it's his baby. He's excited about this boat as I am, and I'm been here every step of the way. As you guys have noticed, I'm down here all the time. Every step of the way he's asking me, how do you want this done, how would you like that done, you know, where do you want the seats, how do you want the seats, how high do you want this, how low do you want that, what colour do you want this. It's just the input. It's not like looking at a boat going, oh, all right, that boat's 100 grand, yeah, here's my money, and getting delivery of it the next day. It's literally like a custom built boat. You get a say in everything. It's up to you how you want it done. There's been a few things we've disagreed on, but in the end of the day, it's my boat, and I've said, well, I'd like it like this, and Alan goes, all right, well, if that's how you want it, that's how it'll be done. So at the moment, we're just speaking about now is this back, this walk-through transom here. So I'm just trying to decide, I'm really in two minds whether we're going to put like a plastic door across here. So I'm in two minds whether we put the plastic door across here so we can still lean up against it when we're fishing like this, or from what Alan's telling me is that a lot of people are actually putting the door at the back here, and then it makes a perfect seat like this for when you're traveling. So some of the past owners of these boats with a walk-through have actually put the door behind like this, which makes this into a perfect seat for sitting on when you're traveling. So I'm in two minds, because he's right, that is a pretty sweet seat, but on the same token, being able to lean up against this when you're fishing in heavy seas is a handy thing as well. For me, it's not that big an issue, because this is my corner, so really whatever happens there is Lee and Jack's problem, because that's the side they fish on. But I'm starting to lean towards what Alan says now, and I'm having it at the back and leaving that as a handy seat. Or we're talking about it, we may be able to rig it up so we can have a door that slides in here or slides in there. So we're going to look at that, but that's a decision I'll make when we get to that. That's sort of one of the last things we do. So we've still got a fair way to go on and off. The fuel filter's installed down there, the water separator, the battery switch is installed. Obviously batteries go in either side here. Down here, the bilge pump we have down there, that's all automatic bilge. There's also an automatic bilge in the pod over there as well. So any water that gets shipped on board is straight down into the bilge and pumped out as quick as it comes in. It gets pumped straight back out again. So you're not going to have to worry about water sloshing around in there. Fuel tank. I'm just in discussions with Alan now about the fuel tank. Obviously this cardboard won't be staying. Just in discussions now with Alan about the fuel tank. So I've got the choice. I can either have a 200 litre, which gives me a hatch at the front here for a bit of storage underneath, or I can go with a 286 litre, which takes up the whole space. I'm in two minds. 286 litres is a lot of fuel, and if I was going to the Abrolhos or something like that, it would be pretty handy. But it's also extra weight you got to carry around, but extra weight that makes the boat ride better as well. So I'm starting to lean towards sacrificing the storage to have the extra fuel tank and have the 286 litres. For most of what we do, 286 litres, I mean, I'd be getting probably 20 trips out of this boat before I'd have to fill it back up again. So I'm kind of leaning towards the bigger tank now. Yeah, I don't know, that's something I'm gonna have to have a good think about. What I was really going to use that storage for down there, possibly would be good for dive tanks and snorkeling gear and stuff like that, but it's not like there's not a lot of space in the cab, and there's plenty of room under the seats and everything, so you know, it's not like I'm going to be short on space really anyway. So I'm probably going to lean towards the bigger fuel tank. Trying to get my GoPro going. So I'm probably going to lean towards the bigger fuel tank, I think. We're going to go with carpet in here. A lot of people have told me I should be going with the deck armour. I've had a couple of guys I know with the deck armour who say it gets a bit slippery when it gets some fish guts on it. So I looked at the deck armour, I was at the boat show, and just the price of it is pretty frightening, to be honest. It looks cool, and I love how they carve in your name and everything into it, but I'm going to be going with carpet for now. Carpet's okay, you can hose it down, it doesn't last forever, but it's easy to rip out and replace at a later date. So for now we're going to be staying with carpet. So the next step is going to be, the boys are going to finish wiring up all the dash, wire up the outboard so that's running, seats in, fuel tank in, batteries in, pretty much everything ready to go, and then it goes in for the canopy. The canopy, they've already got a standard formula that they've run with this. With my boat now, I made the canopy, the targa bar, almost vertical here to sort of only just cover me while I was standing at the wheel like this, so that while we were traveling we could stay protected. After riding in one of these boats, with the canopy as it was when we went to Rottnest, the extra shade was probably a welcome thing to have, and it really doesn't cut down. On my boat the idea was to give me as much possible fishing space as I could, but as you guys have probably noticed, I've got the vertical rod holders here, which pretty much takes up to here worth of fishing rods anyway, and all we ever use is the back corner, which is more than enough. So on this boat we're going to go with full canopy. It's going to be from here across to here with the clears, give us as much shade as we can possibly have. And as we've been going out in the rain a bit this winter, I've decided that to have a bit more shelter and a bit more protection from the wind is probably better than less. So we're going to go with the biggest canopy that we can go on here, which is pretty cool. So that's probably about it for now until the next installment. I'm actually quite overwhelmed by the whole thing, to be honest. I've always lived kind of a modest life. I've never even had a new car. I've always had second-hand boats, second-hand cars. To have something like this coming my way is kind of still very hard for me to believe. I'm just sitting here gobsmacked looking at it, and it's still very surreal for me. It's not real. I don't think it's going to be real until I actually take it out on the water, and myself and Lee and Jack are out fishing, and it's not going to be till then that it sinks in that this is actually mine. I'm still, yeah, like I say, just gobsmacked. I don't even know what to say. I just get overwhelmed just even thinking about it. I've got to just give a massive thanks to my wife for supporting me through this and allowing me to do this. Make no mistake, I will be paying for this, but you know, she's supportive of me, and yeah, I can't thank her enough for that. And I'm just hoping that with the new boat and the no more two-stroke fumes, that I'll be able to take her and my younger bloke out a lot more often, and we can have a lot more family times. So looking forward to it. Anyway guys, that's probably it for me for now. The next installment I'm hoping is going to be on the water when we do the prop trial with the Mercury rep, and I'll get him to talk a bit about the Mercury, and it'll be then that I'll talk about why I chose this motor and the pros and cons of this motor versus others. So until then, if you like our stuff, stay tuned, and hopefully the next time you see this boat, it will be in the water.